Welcome back. Today is the 8th of November 2023 and we have a very special guest today because the one and only John Leban is back in Estonia. Hello, John.
Hello, Handa. Hello, Marianne. Hello to all of your viewers. It is great to be back. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely.
What a marvelous country, really. This is my second visit to Estonia.
Yeah, so you were here last summer. So we are recording this in November. So the summer before the summer of last year, it's almost, 13, 14 months? Mm-hmm. So now you get to experience both sides of Estonia, summer and winter. How would you describe what's the main difference?
Well, it's interesting that the sun goes down at 4 p.m., isn't it? And you guys live like this for a few months of the year, where you get to work and it's dark, you leave work and it's dark. Yeah. This is crazy.
It's a proper challenge to pull it off.
Yeah.
And remain sane.
Well, last night I realized I'd been sitting at my laptop and I felt like it must be so late because the sun had been down for so long. It was only 7 p.m. Like the night just never ends.
Yeah, that's why a lot of Estonians drink a lot of alcohol during winter. And but the reason you're here, before we start, I must mention that the podcast we did with you last year, it was the most popular podcast we ever did in terms of viewers.
Is that true?
It is.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And you're only telling me this now. I could have used this information in the past. It would have been a good pick-me-up. The most popular in the whole year.
Yeah. That's true. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. That's good news.
Yeah. But the funny thing is it was deleted from YouTube.
Oh, why?
Well, it was
because
during...
it's so...
It was during COVID times, even though we did not talk about COVID. But there was one thing you mentioned. In the podcast, you said, I didn't even know that the viruses exist. Oh. I think we got deleted because of that one line.
You think they deleted the video because I said I don't believe in viruses?
Yeah, because all the rest of the show was not about COVID or medicine or anything like that.
No, it wasn't about any of that stuff. It was about the history.
Yeah, we talked about the history hoax.
Because that's usually not a censor topic.
Yeah, exactly.
YouTube. That's interesting.
It got deleted. So if you're interested to see the previous podcast we did with John, we will link this beneath this video here. But today, I was asking you so that we can discuss about the NPC theory. The first time I heard about NPC theory, I think it was through you. I would say roughly 5 years ago. So for those who do not know, what is the NPC theory?
Okay, I'll give you like a very brief overview of the theory. So NPC, non-player character. So suppose you're playing a video game and you're playing online. So there's lots of other people around. There are other humans and they're playing the character. Sometimes you play a video game and there's no human behind the character. It's just the computer game is the person. Mm. That's a non-player character. Well, 5 years ago, somebody came up with this idea on the internet that a lot of the people that you talk to in real life, they're just like non-player characters because they say the same things over and over, or they repeat what is on the TV. And so this became a very popular meme on the internet. And one of the reasons it became popular was because there were some psychologists who did a study trying to determine how often do people think in their own head. So you know how sometimes, suppose you're gardening or you're cooking your dinner, you might be thinking to yourself about what happens today or what's going to happen tomorrow, this kind of thing. And a lot of people assume that everybody else is doing that. So when you're walking along, you're thinking about something and you just assume that this person is thinking about something or this person. But these psychologists did a study to try to find out, is that true? And supposedly they found out it's not true. There's a lot of people walking around, they're not thinking about anything. So if you talk to them, they can talk back to you. So they are intelligent, they can communicate, but when they're not communicating with somebody, the rest of the day, there's nothing happening. And a lot of people were like, whoa, that can't be true. But they started to realize maybe it is true. So what I did was I went and found that study to see how can you tell if someone is thinking? And what I found was that maybe the study didn't say what people thought it said. So let me see if I can rewind. In 2018, on the internet, there was a very popular meme calling people NPCs. And the Trump, Donald Trump, the Trump supporters on the internet were calling the Hillary supporters NPCs because they all repeated the same things, right? They're just like robots. And then it got censored on Twitter, and then the mainstream media started talking about it. That was 2018. But one of their evidences was an article in Psychology Today in 2016. And that was written by a guy who did a study in 2011. So that's the history there. Okay. So that I started talking about it in 2018 when it got popular on the internet. But what most people weren't doing was checking the evidence. So it got popular because people were like, no, there's scientific studies that some people aren't thinking. That's how it got popular. But I went and found the study, and it's a very interesting study, but I don't think it proves that people are not thinking. I think even the simple people, the people who just watch TV and believe it, I think even them still do have inner thoughts. They're just not very smart inner thoughts. So is that have I given a good description of the NPC meme? Does that make sense?
But now, do you think that, is there some truth to the NPC theory?
Yes. Yeah, there is. Okay. If you speak to I don't know what it's like in Estonia, but in Australia and most Western countries, if you speak to a normal person about their job, they're very smart. If they're a mechanic, or if they build houses, or if they're an accountant, they know this very well, and they're very interested in it. And they might have their own opinions on it. But apart from that, most people, their opinions are not very well thought out. They don't think about these things unless you're talking to them. And so what they talk about is whatever they heard from the television. So what's in the news at the moment? Israel and Gaza. If you, for some reason, talked to a normal person, hey, what's your opinion about Israel-Gaza? Their opinion will probably be either this team is doing the wrong thing or this team is doing the wrong thing. That's it.
Yeah.
That's usually all the thoughts they have. Or the Ukraine conflict or the coronavirus. Most of the time, their thoughts are pretty much what the TV tells them. Or just the opposite of what the TV tells them. That's it.
Yeah, just always two options.
Most of the time. And so the NPC meme, if you just think of, like, people like me are not saying these people are actually non-player characters and we're in a video game. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, if I played a video game, let's say tonight I was bored, so I decided to play a video game. And in the game you can walk around. In that game, why would I try to have a conversation with a video game character? It just has a script. I can't say to it, well, here's my opinion and what do you think? And then he tells me something. And then I'm like, that's very interesting and a conversation that I can have with you or with you. Why can I have this in a video game? It doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't try. In this world, that's how I feel about most people. If they don't have their own opinions, if their opinion comes from the television or from TikTok, why would I think, yes, I can have a conversation with this person? That's not going to happen. Do you see what I mean?
Totally. We experienced the NPC, possible truth of the NPC phenomena during COVID, when suddenly even the so-called smart people went totally insane because the TV said something. And
if you say something else, then they almost like can't hear you, and they just continue their own story. And then you ask again, and then they just eyes go blank, and they just continue their own story, not making any.
And the funny thing is,
I think it's just like this cognitive dissonance. It's so some of the ideas are so hard to grasp that they just rather not hear it at all.
So the question is, are these people unable to hear these thoughts and think along, or are they too scared so that some of the brain maybe doesn't function, or what do you think? Are these people literally stupid, or are they insane? Are they afraid, or what do you think? What do you honestly think? What is going on?
Well, that's a good question. But going back to the corona thing, do you remember how, especially in 2020, people kept talking about how many cases there are? Do you remember on the news? Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
On the news, it would say there is 200,000 cases and then 300. There was like a tracker.
Yeah.
Right? Do you remember this?
Absolutely.
It's like when you watch a football game, it has the score.
Same.
But in Corona, it was just the number of cases, right?
Yeah.
And my experience was, if you tried to talk to somebody about Corona, they would bring up the cases. Now, why were they doing that? I believe because they were watching television, or they were watching news on their tablet, or whatever their source was. They're constantly seeing cases and hearing about cases. So that's being put into their brain. Then when they talk to you, they're just transmitting like a robot. That's the NPC thing in a nutshell.
Absolutely.
It's being programmed. So when you're trying to talk to them and then they talk about something else, this is why. Because if you were in a video game and this character's job is for you to bring it something, and then it gives you the key, and then you take the key to the next level, right? That's all that character is there for. If you went up to that character and tried to talk about something different, it's going to go nowhere. His job is just to give you the key. You see?
Yeah.
So during Corona, all of these people in this world, their job was to have the information.
Talk about the cases.
Yeah. And so if you came along and said, well, I've been looking into microbiology and into virology, they'd be like, no, the cases. The cases. That's the NPC analogy. And what was interesting was, in 2018, I started talking about the NPC theory. And a lot of people didn't like this. Even my own viewers, some of them were like, you shouldn't say this is disrespectful, you're dehumanizing them, all this stuff. They really didn't like this idea of NPCs. But then something happened in 2020, like you just said, coronavirus. And all of a sudden, the people who said that I was being too nasty or too mean, they were coming to me and saying, hey, you were right. They're all like NPCs. I'm like, I told you. But I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that these people don't have thoughts or that they don't have thinking. They do. It's just very limited. And the other important point about the NPC thing is, most people are the way they are. So a lot of people, they come to me and they're frustrated because their partner or their children or their boss or whoever keeps repeating things and they never learn. And what I now believe is, most people will never change their opinions. It's very unusual for a human to think to themselves, maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm going to go back to the start, pretend I don't know anything, go back to the start and look at the evidence. And if it turns out I'm wrong, change my mind. Humans don't do that. They don't do that. Even for me, it's difficult sometimes because I've put all of this time into studying something, and then if it turns out it's wrong, this, and it takes a lot of time to read all these books and all these scientific studies. So to find out that you're wrong about something, humans, we hate that. We really hate that. And so what I say to people is, if you're frustrated that your friend or your family doesn't know something, you need to get over that, because that person's never going to change. Yeah. So if this is a problem for you, that's your problem. You can come to that person with more evidence tomorrow and another scientific study the next day and more evidence the next day. Doesn't matter. That person's opinion is not based on evidence. So more evidence is not going to change anything. Yeah. So if you have a problem with these people, that's for you to fix up. Don't expect them to change. They never will.
Yeah.
That's a very healthy point of view.
Imagine if Marianne came to me and she said, John, I was playing this video game and I went to the guy with the key and I tried to ask him direction and I'm like, that's not his job.
Yeah. So we're going to make a small break. So John, can you do the honors?
Well, yes. So there's this competition to win some of this lovely magnesium water, and there's a giveaway.
Exactly.
And somebody is the lucky winner of this, a box of 12 bottles, I believe.
Yep.
12 bottles in a box. There is one lucky winner of the magnesium water. And who is the winner, Hendo?
The one, we don't know who, but in order to be the potential winner, you're going to have to share this episode on your Facebook feed.
Yep.
Yep. And in the next next slot, we're going to talk about the red team and the blue team, and how does the NPC theory, work with that. And,
I can't wait.
and also what happened, how COVID suddenly ended and something else came out.
Replaced it.
Yeah, we'll be right back.